Alright, I gotta make a video today anyways. Figured I might as well start now. Also, apologies for how late I'm making this. My birthday's coming up, and so I've been delaying for a lot of things. Also, tell you what, soon, around my birthday, I will reveal my face. Not a person, they'll still remain a mystery, but seeing as how I've basically made myself the face of this channel, I will gladly reveal my face to you. And by gladly, I mean I'm freaking bored, might as well. So, let's get into the topic for today. The value of life. Now, it is common for many to say that life is invaluable. Under what perspective is that true? Where does one justify that? Now you may say, oh, well, it's humanity that justifies it. Really? Then explain to me, in such an instance, why humanity has seemed consistent to throw itself against itself and murder itself for years upon years, quite literally since our beginning. Now, certainly, with the modern day, this has calmed down substantially. But it still happens. I mean, Russia's an easy example. See intervention in the Middle East. See basically every murder on this planet. And so I must ask, again, where's the justification? It's clear we in our actions don't see ourselves as invaluable, or at the very least, people as a whole. One might see themselves as invaluable. I've seen that plenty. It's actually quite common for those with big egos. But what about the rest of us? What honestly do you think is the value of me to you? If I were to die, whether you watched the death or not, if my blood splattered on the floor somewhere, do you think most people would care? Honestly, I doubt it. And so, if it's not emotional value, and there's nothing innate about us, why would we be invaluable? Is there some sort of divine spark? Some mystical thing from the heavens that gives us the invaluableness of our own nature? Well, that requires believing in a god, does it not? You need a divine to worship to justify a divine spark. And what are we mostly nowadays? Well, an increasing number are religious, either atheists or agnostics of some variety. Now, truthfully, I classify agnostics as a sort of separate thing in a grid, but meh. Explaining the basics of my theories on atheism and agnosticism would be worth another video, frankly. But that still leaves the question. If no divine spark, if no natural belief in humanity, and no emotional attachment, what gives the life of a person value? Why in the world should I be considered worth existing? Like, honestly, ask yourself that question. Why would you or anyone else be worth a penny? Well, I came to a simple conclusion. We can act. Value is derived from service. If you cannot serve, or more accurately, if you choose not to serve, you are lessening your own value. Someone who is crippled, sure, they may not be able to act as much as another person, but if they still desire action and find ways to help, that alone shows the value of their life. If a person who is fully capable refuses to act for others, or even themselves, they show themselves to have little value. Only value they have, then, is, well, the potential that eventually they get their stuff together and start acting for someone's benefit. Maybe they start with themselves, maybe they start with others. It doesn't really matter, but the value comes from the ability to act, to serve, to contribute to your society in a meaningful way. The individual gains value from the ability to do. Who can rightfully claim value from refusing to contribute? Who can reasonably say that they hold value in their life just for existing? I can't think of anyone, truthfully. At least anyone honest. The fact is, if there's no divine spark, which I believe there not to be, because I don't know if there's a God, so I err on the side of not belief, and if we clearly do not value ourselves as entirely unexpendable, well then, all that's left is the fact that we can act. And with that comes the simple understanding: if we can act, then we have value. If we act, we raise our value, so long as it benefits others. Service is where value comes from. It is why your life is worth living. Contributing to others, making your life and theirs better, making sure people are happy and are able to smile, even if only for a few minutes. That's more value than most people can ever dream of. But it's truly, truly valuable. And then there's obviously those who decide to ruin it. What of those who are evil? What of the evil? Those who murder, rape, destroy without meaning. Simple. They hold no value. They are a plague, a pestilence of humanity. Similar to a cancer cell, they destroy and take without any return. They are, quite frankly, something to be removed. Not just from society at large, but from any sense of reason. From nature they came, to nature they should return the moment their crimes are proven. That is the only reasonable response, really, because, again, if the ability to act and serve carries value, then ceasing that is a grave sin. It is the removal of people's abilities to contribute to the world, to others, and to themselves. It is the sin of sins, really. And so, it is an affront to nature itself, and thus must be punished appropriately. With death, I hold no restraint about saying such a thing. But again, we must ask, how should that impact our decisions? It is one thing to say that. It is one thing to say, oh, that person's life has no value, or oh, people's lives have value in this regard. But what of decisions? When it comes down to it, how should one handle such things? Should 100 lives be saved? Or should 50? Because value is never exact. You can never say for certain that one person is more valuable than 2, or 3, or 4. And so, in such cases, it may sound weird, but I default to the invaluable reasoning and simply set it all to 1. A life is X. Simple variable, simple equation. 100x, 50x. Where should the gator go? That's how you save. Now, if you're forced to make this decision, that is what I'd argue. And of course, there comes caveats. Saving who you can is perfectly admirable if you only know part of the situation. A firefighter does not always know exactly what's going on in a house they go to save people from. But they do know that there could very well be people in there and that they should take as many as possible out. Even if it could save more lives if they decide to, say, remove the roof of the house through some Herculean effort and organize a relief team from there. Rarely is that practical, and they do not know everything about the situation. So, rushing in and finding people and saving as many as you can, including pets, of course, that is the moral thing to do. Would more lives be saved if they went with the first option, however impractical? Theoretically, it's possible, but few people know things before they go in. Few people know that the 100 and the 50 are guaranteed. For all you know, you would only have access to the 50, and so doing nothing or trying to save the 100 could very well lead to all lives dying. You can only act according to the information you know. And so, when it comes to our lives, so too comes the interpretation of value. I understand why some people will gladly throw everything in the name of their families. After all, their families have served them more than anyone. They know the value of their service, and so they weigh it highly. I, however, knowing the value of my family's service, also know that other people have served as well, and not knowing the exact numbers of it, I default back to just numbers, really. I lack exacts, so I just say, alright, a life is X, calculate from there, even if it means losing family in the process. Cruel way of thinking, but if it works, it works. And that's how I think in the abstract. Never said I was particularly moral, but it is how I think. And so, I'll cut this video short, but I'll leave you with one question. How does one define service? Actually, I'll leave two. Use your brains a bit more than usual. And I'll ask you again. How do you weigh lives? Because eventually, someone, quite a few of you honestly, may well have to consider such a question. When you have lives in your hand, and you can make a decision to save them or kill them, through your actions, direct or indirect, will you make the call? I trust you to hopefully lead to a better world with such a call, but life has its ways of making sure we don't know what's good or evil. But I'll let you find that on your own, after all. This world of ours has objective truths, so I'll let you try to figure out what they are. Have a good day, like and subscribe.